Hello, I'm John Roberts, and welcome to the CBS Evening News Online Edition. Just ahead, more on that recent U.S. nuclear submarine accident. We'll have details on how it happened and who is likely to be blamed for it. Also, remembering playwright Arthur Miller. We'll take a look back at his long career and why his stage masterpieces touched so many. And the Friday Consumer Alert shows how one city is going after sales taxes owed by Internet shoppers. It's all starting now on the CBS Evening News Online Edition. We begin this evening with an undersea disaster narrowly averted early this year in the Western Pacific, and new information about it obtained by CBS News. On January 8th, a U.S. Navy nuclear attack submarine was cruising near top speed far below the surface when it rammed a mountain rising from the sea floor. One sailor was killed, dozens injured, but the damaged submarine managed to limp back to port. David Martin at the Pentagon has the latest now on how it happened and who's getting the blame.
In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a medic is lowered onto the U.S. submarine San Francisco after a near catastrophic collision with an uncharted undersea mountain. One sailor was killed and 60 more injured when the nuclear-powered sub smashed head-on into the mountain last month while making a high-speed run at more than 35 miles per hour. The San Francisco was at a depth of more than 500 feet, and judging from the damage it suffered, lucky to have made it to the surface. Although the accident investigation is not yet complete, the Navy has now decided to charge Commander Kevin Mooney, the captain of the San Francisco, for failing to heed warnings he was operating in dangerous waters. The Navy does not intend to court-martial Mooney, but he has been relieved of his command and will likely receive a career-ending letter of reprimand. Normally, a sub relies on its sonar to detect underwater obstacles, sending out pulses of sound and listening for an echo. But the sonar is useless at high speeds because all other sounds are drowned out by the noise the sub makes. The undersea terrain of the open Pacific is known to be poorly mapped, and the mountain the San Francisco hit was not shown on the chart the sub was using to navigate. But other charts available to the captain warned that satellites had detected a discolored area of water which could indicate an obstacle beneath the surface. In addition, before the San Francisco began its high-speed run, the crew took depth soundings which revealed the water was shallower than shown on the chart. Another warning sign the captain apparently failed to heed. A failure that very nearly sent the sub and all 137 aboard to the bottom. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Arthur Miller, the playwright who transformed American theater in the years after World War II, has died at his home in Connecticut. Heart failure was the cause. He was 89 years old. Miller said his plays were aimed at, quote, grabbing people and shaking them by the back of the neck. And as Anthony Mason reports, countless theater-goers know he succeeded.
They have to come in from that side.
For more than half a century, Arthur Miller was a giant of the American stage. He was just 33 when he wrote what many consider his masterpiece.
I'm tired to the death.
Death of a Salesman introduced the world to Willie Loman, a traveling salesman worn down by his pursuit of the American dream.
I am not a diamond dozen. I am Willie Loman.
It's also about the alienation of people toward their work, namely people feeling that the company they're working for really doesn't know they're alive.
Death of a Salesman won Miller the Pulitzer Prize, but his most widely produced play was The Crucible, based on the Salem witch trials.
Did you call the devil last night?
I never called him!
It was inspired by the political witch hunts of the 1950s. Miller himself was called to testify and asked to name communist sympathizers.
I don't believe, and I never did, that a man has to become an informer.
Were you scared?
Well, you could end up in jail, you see.
Miller said they weren't really interested in him. Like every other man in the world, they just wanted to meet his fiancée.
It was basically because I was engaged to Marilyn Monroe.
Miss Monroe, could you tell us what kind of a wedding you're going to have?
Very quiet, I hope.
His marriage to screen goddess Marilyn Monroe in 1956 would be anything but quiet.
Honey, it's only a rabbit.
Miller wrote the movie The Misfits for her, but after just 5 years, they divorced. In 1999, he was given a Tony Award for his life's work. Miller wrote more than 20 plays, but he refused to write his own epitaph.
What do you want people to say when they see your name?
I've never given it a thought, to tell you the truth. I expect to be here indefinitely.
His work will be, but Arthur Miller has taken his final curtain call. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
One of the attractions of shopping online is that most retailers don't collect sales tax. But that does not mean that there is no sales tax. And buyers are beginning to learn that the hard way, as Randall Pinkston reports in our Friday Consumer Alert.
For New York City smokers, each puff is a pretty penny. The city tax alone adds $1.50 to every pack. But smokers who shop online to find cheap deals had better start worrying about Martha Stark.
And those consumers basically are mostly going on the internet because they are trying to avoid paying taxes.
Stark is New York City's finance commissioner. She's launched one of the most aggressive efforts in the country to collect unpaid taxes from online sales, starting with cigarettes.
So they're telling people that if you buy cigarettes from us, you don't have to pay taxes.
Exactly.
True or false?
Not true. False.
This one, they want $1,545.
Bill Mungan and Deborah Uffer got one of Stark's 4,000 tax demand letters.
Bill, what was your reaction when you received the letters?
To quote George W. Bush, shock and awe.
It made me feel that anything I do is being closely watched.
The couple thinks more than money is behind this.
There are a lot of people who don't like smokers out there. Smokers are the easiest target to pick on.
If you're a smoker, smoke away. However, you have to pay the appropriate tax.
Why did you want to do that to all of those poor cigarette smokers?
Well, those poor cigarette smokers. I have to say, I just take seriously my role here.
Seriously indeed. Ignore the demand, and the city is ready to put a lien on your paycheck, plus penalties of up to $200 per carton.
So how did the city get the names of online cigarette buyers? From court cases against a couple of websites. Now it's asking more websites to cough up their customer lists.
Smokers elsewhere who think they don't have to worry should think again.
You start hitting numbers like $1 billion in lost revenue, people start to pay attention.
That's $1 billion a year nationwide in projected taxes and online cigarette sales. It's up to $50 billion for all internet sales.
Those people who might be buying books and CDs and not paying the appropriate sales tax, I would advise them to start paying the sales tax.
While Deborah and Bill won't admit they bought the cigarettes online, they are offline now, buying their smokes close to home and still fuming over the tax bill. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
More stories are just a click away, but be sure to join us on television for the on-air edition of the CBS Evening News. On Monday's broadcast, what if you were taxed on every mile you drove? It sounds incredible, but it could happen. We'll tell you why and where. For CBSNews.com, I'm John Roberts.